Morning, Monday morning. Just waiting for Ian and Dawn Kennedy to arrive to do the suspension on the car. Just got it out the garage. Fingers crossed they let me do a bit of filming, and I can show you guys what's involved in the changing of the suspension. And like I say, I've never met Ian, but hopefully he'll run us through how it works and the benefits of actually changing the displacers rather than just adding more fluid, which I'm led to believe they're part nitrogen filled and part fluid filled, and pumping them up with more fluid just makes the problem worse, I should say. It makes the suspension rise like it should, but a stiffer ride, which is not what you want. So yeah, after 40 odd years the nitrogen's all but disappeared, hence my car is so low. So hopefully by the end of today it should be sitting a lot higher than it is now. We'll see, I'll keep you posted. So this is just a bit of a comparison for you. You measure from the centre of the hub to the top of the wheel arch, and the gap apparently should be 368 mil, I think, and we're currently at about 305, so a lot higher by the end of today, hopefully.
What I'm doing now, I'm attaching the pump to the valve on the pipeline of the car, so we can like release the fluid out, which will go into a reservoir in the pump, and then you pump the fluid back in afterwards.
Oh, it's reusable, is it?
Reusable, yeah. There's a filter in the pump, so if there's any debris in the fluid, it filters it out. Can you take the tension off, Dawn, please? Off the. Will the pump go any closer to the car?
That's about it, 'cause I don't want the handle to hit the car.
No, you don't want that. So we'll get the thread started on this. I'm sure you know what it's like. Can't risk that one then. Yeah, so when I bounce it, there's no travel at all, no gas in the units, and it's the only movement on the tyre.
Right.
Absolutely rigid.
Okay.
More room because there's no tank in it, that's helpful.
Oh well, that's out because of doing that hole in the floor.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to put new petrol pipes on anyway.
It's come out reasonably neat, that has. I've seen a lot worse.
Yeah, it's not that nice in the boot, but...
I mean, I hate gasless MIG, I won't use it. I always use the gas, I do. Yeah. That's not very neat. You want to see what I've seen, you know. At least with that you can seam seal it and grind it down and have it looking... Because the actual valance itself...
Yeah, the rear valance is good, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
A little bit on this corner here, but nothing...
Well, I'd get a gas welder, and when you've got that, have a go at just tapping that level,
yeah,
and putting a weld just where those two plates are there.
Oh, yeah, joining the seam.
Yeah, you can just actually put a weld down there. I'm saying you could, because to me it's nothing, but you know. But yeah, if you've got a gas welder, you could just grind that down, tidy it up, and you've got like a very good repair really there, which doesn't detract from the niceness of the car.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can do with a grinder to tidy it up.
Yeah.
And I'd say it's a nice car, you know, I mean, with a respray, and it would look different again, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
With the dents, you can fit another door, can't you, or a skin?
Yeah.
I mean, the skins are quite pleasant to do. Just run a grinder around the edge to sort of, so you can peel off the skin, then use a hammer and dolly to like knock the new skin over, you know, and re-clinch it.
Yeah.
Because that gauge sticks at 100.
Yeah, nothing.
When people check the fluid pressure, you need to check it.
No fluid coming out. Oh, you've not turned the T.
Turn the T volume. What I'm trying to say is, it's no use on the Allegro saying what's the pressure going to be, because with the age of the units, they're going to be low on gas. Every single Allegro, unless they've got a valve on the top of the unit, means they need doing. They're low on gas.
There's a little bit, but not much.
There's no such thing.
Should be around there.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a Hydragas unit that's got the right amount of gas in after all this time. They all need doing. Now, when they're healthy, and you check the fluid pressure, that should be around here, sort of around about the 400 mark, where obviously when they're low on gas, when you take the car off the ground, the diaphragm's dropping and the fluid's going back into the unit, but there's no gas to press down on the unit. Normally all you're doing when you jack a car up or lower it down, taking the weight off, you're doing that with the diaphragm, and the diaphragm's coming down, and obviously when you jack it up, it's putting pressure. When you take the wheels off, the diaphragm drops, and obviously when you've got the weight of the car on, the fluid presses on the gas, so that gas cushion's flexing depending on whether the car's jacked up or the wheels are off the ground. But when there's no gas in, the fluid just drops down in the unit and there's nothing above it to press down, and that's why you get a low pressure reading on the unit.
So you're fairly 100% sure that there's virtually no gas in this?
Virtually no gas in them.
No.
That's acting upon the unit. That doesn't have bearings in like a Metro or a Mini or an 1100 or 1300. That's tightened down, and all these buses are clamped together against a displacer, and when you hit a bump and that's pivoting, it's actually the rubber of the bus what's twisting, and the shaft in the middle just remains stationary.
Right.
But that resistance the rubber gives, when that displacer tries to push the car up, it has to act against that resistance.
Yeah.
And that resistance there controls the height at the back. If that's set up incorrectly and you haven't got that resistance there, the car ends up sky high at the back, because you haven't got the weight of an engine.
Yes.
And that is putting an artificial load
right, okay.
on it. You suck that, have you done?
Yeah.
Just make sure the gauge drops. They're not normally blocked on these. Mine was. That's a bloody rod, that flexi hose. It was blocked. Has that gone down?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just suck it a bit, Dawn, for me. I'll just put my finger over it, just a minute. Suck that. Stop a bit. I heard a gurgling, that means it's all right. Yeah, I'll get my socket now to undo that inner bolt, and that should drop then. I'll show you.
Yeah.
It keeps going into reverse all the time. So what I'm doing now, I'm just supporting. There's not a massive amount of weight, but I'm just keeping the cross tube up. That's why I put that little bottle jack under it.
Is the displacer moving under?
It seems it, yeah, it seems all right.
Brilliant.
You've forgotten all the job, haven't you? How many Allegros have you done?
No, it's been that long since we've done one. I was thinking, it's because I was thinking Princess ones, because Princess and Allegros are very similar.
The rears are similar, the fronts are different.
So that's what I was thinking.
It's very rare you have trouble with these bolts here. It's usually the ones, these four here, that are the problem. And he's attached to the cross tube mounting. So if I support the unit and withdraw the shaft, then the unit lifts clear. And there you are, that's your unit.
Got you.
But you see how that's got lovely black paint inside?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just can't get that shaft out. I mean, that shaft, you can still see the original plating on it. but sometimes that shaft will not budge, and that's when I have to take the back plate and the drum off, disconnect the brake pipe and swap the complete radius on, and take that home and put it in the press. But I've had it where I put 30 tons on before and the casting split open, and yet that won't move.
Bloody hell.
Just rust has welded it in.
Yeah.
So that's that. Dawn will empty the remaining fluid out in a moment, but the gate has got itself a little bit chewed because it's not been fitted correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But
What, from the factory?
Nah, somebody's knocked that off and
Oh, and tried to put it back on.
tried to put it back on, and when the car's gone over a bump, the unit swallowed the gaiter.
Right.
Can you see that? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
just got to try and rip that off after. And I made a special tool to fit it because it's very close, and without it, you've had it. That's why someone's knocked it off and not been able to fit it.
Right.
No, have I bought you the
Let's
wrong
have a
one?
look.
No, I haven't.
No,
I
you
have bought
haven't.
the
No,
right
you
one.
haven't. Have a good look at it, yeah.
Yeah, I have brought you the right one. It's
Okay.
because I was holding it the opposite way.
Oh, the copper grease done. This will actually fit it. I put a little bit of grease on that, on the knuckle joint, just so that if ever the unit has to come off, God forbid, it's just you're not pulling a knuckle joint out with it. Because that just gives you a bit of extra work if that happens. I'd rather that stay in, so we'll copper grease that. Doesn't pivot. When that's tightened up, you're ramming that bush against that cheat.
Yes.
Yes, I just checked, yeah. So what actually happens is, when you tighten it up, you're forcing that bush against that cheek.
Yeah.
You're forcing the inner part of the bush against that serrated edge of the displacer,
Yeah.
and you're doing the same with all of the bushes. So when it's all clamped up, when it pivots, the shaft is stationary,
And just
and because that tube is bonded to the rubber, and that's an interference fit, and the rubber's bonded to the other tube, you're twisting the rubber filling
Yes.
of the bush, and that isn't moving at all.
right.
And that's why that seizes in, you see. So what you do then is get the unit, place that spring there. That spring just keeps everything together if there's a sudden deflation, a sudden failure. So what you do then is get the unit and push it home into the recess. And you just give it a bit of a wiggle and get the shaft in like that. And then I just have to sort of lie on the ground and push the old lot back.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone in. What we do now is copper grease these up and get all the bolts in basically. Pushing that up against the pad. So it's compressing that pad, lift the car up slightly. And then what we've got to do, we've got to get a measurement. Have you got the tape measure done, please? And it was 330, yeah?
Yeah.
You've got to have 330 between there and there. But what I normally do is guess it a bit. So what I do, I'll just pinch that up a bit more. Experiment until you get the ratchet effect, that's it. So we've got an aim for 330 millimetres. 340, so we just need to... It's a bit fiddly to get it right, but... Down the touch. You only sort of, you got to just guess the middle, and it is quite approximate, but there we are, 330. So now I've got to really tighten that inner bolt.
to the standard setting of FT.
Yeah, so what happens now then? Now you've got that preload that I was talking about.
Yeah.
We've got your resistance. And what you're actually doing, you're twisting your bush and your shaft stationary, so there we are.
Yeah.
So that's that one done. So now we repeat all that again on the other side. Wait, message?
What?
Handle up.
Yeah,
Are you ready?
I'm gone now. Go on then. Ooh, even less gas in that side.
Yeah, very little pressure.
Should be round here somewhere.
When you lose A, the flue should fly out, but you'll find it'll just come to a stop pretty quick.
I'm sitting here holding the
Yeah, you just do that again, yeah. Yeah, the problem is with these pipes, the union nut can seize onto the pipe itself and twist the pipe, so if that happens, you've got to stop and use heat.
We're lucky that one's free then.
Yeah. Regas the car for them, and then they sold it onto another owner, and they took it to a garage to be topped up, and the garage put the suspension pump on the valve we'd fitted for the nitrogen. And obviously pump fluid into the top of the unit and let the gas out.
Right.
So it's not, yeah, they're not to be touched, those valves on the top.
So you've put the valves on the top so that if it needs regassing, you can just...
But that's in 15 years.
Yes.
On Allegro, you can take a cylinder and redo it on the car. But I recommend you take the units off though and empty any stagnant fluid out. I recommend like removing the units, I do.
Yeah.
But if anybody wanted to do it and they knew what they were doing, it could be done. But you're better off gassing them on the bench really with the pipe union open to the air, you see.
Yeah.
Buses are preloaded, but I'll show you how to do the preload after. But you've got to get a spanner under there, and then I'm going to get a socket under the bonnet and undo the bolt and withdraw it. And then what you do then, you ease the top arm out, complete with everything still attached, ease it out, then you can ease the displacer out. Cracked it, so hopefully this should rotate. It has to pass through some bushes. You don't get much movement.
Oh, with the clutch on.
Yeah. It's a bit springy that is, I'm hoping it's not seized in. See this spanner here, Don, can you push that down and hold it against that webbing there? That's starting to go, that is, it was a bit stiff. What you do, you sort of part company with that. Don't want to try and pull that gaiter off if you can help it. You've got to try and then you can just get that out of the way. So withdraw the unit. There we go. I mean, as you know, as I showed you before, they've got an inner diaphragm, so those cracks are insignificant really. They just go down to the cords, but then there's another layer of rubber, and the cords are that strong that I've seen it where that top layer of rubber's peeled off and the unit's still perfectly serviceable. So the cracks on that outer diaphragm there have no significance to the condition of the internal condition of the unit. because it's dry and everything, it looks like it'll live another life and be able to be recharged.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure. Now the worst part now is getting that pipe started. Let's get my gloves back on. The dry shaft's remained in. It's they've got a plunge joint where it's just come out on that. But when it comes dislodged from the gearbox and it starts losing oil, that's what I don't like. So in a minute I'm going to offer the displacer up, hold it up, and then hopefully Dawn will get the pipe started.
Mm-hmm.
And the pipe supports it then until I get the arm back in. So I'll just swing that just out of the way a little bit and just manoeuvre it in. Can you guide that up, Dawn? Can you see it?
Yeah.
Grab the valve if necessary.
Yeah, I've got it.
Can you see the pipe union where it needs to be?
Right, right. It's all right. Just move it towards. I can't see the pipe unit, so just move it towards me at the minute.
Let's have a look. I don't want to scratch the paint on it, you see, because that's visible. Can you see
Hang
it?
on, let me have a
No,
feel.
you need to look in the bonnet. Where's the pipe union?
It's nowhere near me.
Nowhere near. All right then.
So.
It is. It was near. It wasn't
I
far
can't
away.
feel it.
Can you see it now?
That's it. Yeah, I can see it now. Turn
Okay.
it towards me. Front of the car.
Towards what?
Front of the car.
Okay.
Bit more. And a bit more. Okay, let's try that.
Try and get that started.
Right, tilt. Can you tilt it? I'm just going to get it
Right.
ready.
Well, I don't know. Get the piston of the displacer and sort of manipulate that to one side. Start easing that back. But then I've got to also manipulate that and get that knuckle joint rod into the centre of the piston. Ease it all back. Dry shafts. That's plunged back in, yeah. So now I can get that straight. How is it done? It still needs to come in a bit, doesn't it? This way in. Is that going?
The bits, front bit's gone in, but wiggle your end if you can.
Should be going now, that's it. No?
Is it gone?
Going, yeah. No, the car done.
Okay.
You see the nut? What went on the end?
It must have come out.
Bottom arm, and it's half and half on this, so what you do is you just place a bottle jack under the ball joint nut on the bottom arm. Just lightly jack it.
So this is to preload it like we did with the back.
Yeah. So you see your bottom bump stop there and your top bump stop. You just have it sort of half and half, halfway up, and then you pinch that bolt. So that's roughly it. Yeah. So all we do then is tighten this down.
And that's that big bolt you've just put through from...
Yes.
Right.
Because what you're doing then when you tighten the big bolt, you're forcing the cheeks of the car against the bus tube what goes through the middle, and then that's making it so it's locking it up then, so it's twisting on the rubber.
And again, that bar should not move. It's the rubber that
It's the rubber what's taking the twisting.
I've got you.
Yeah, because there's no bearing as such, it's just rubber, just flexing like that,
Yeah.
just twisting. Which is very clever really. I have other cars that had conventional buses that needed greasing or they wore out, and this is the twisting of rubber. There's nothing to wear, and it happened to be very good rubber, so...
Yeah, years ago it was, wasn't it?
So after 40 years, it's still perfect, so... Put the vacuum on and suck out the air. Sometimes that can stick to the ball joint there, the knuckle joint, and pull the knuckle joint out. So, and then when you fill it and pump it up, if you don't make sure that knuckle joint's seated, the piston can be ejected from the unit, and then the unit can burst because it has to have that in to support the inner diaphragm, and without any support, it can just burst the unit. So you've always got to make sure when you pump it up afterwards that you're watching that down and making sure that hasn't come out of its seat or anything. I've actually cracked that now, so we'll wind out the bolt from the other side.
Phones are falling.
I'll turn that up right as soon as I can to
Stop it coming out.
coming out.
Does that one look good?
It certainly does, yeah. Just that outer perishing, which doesn't amount to anything. It looks. I was just looking at that, which I don't know whether that's just oil or whether it had a slight weep of fluid, but I mean that's not important. Yeah, can you see there how the cord structure's exposed?
Yeah.
It's like close wound cord. So even with it, when the rubber's perished, it's there's another layer of rubber inside, and that cord is like a suit of armour. It's doing all the work.
Right.
Yeah, it's really tough. They're tyre cords, they are, and that unit's perfectly. Once regassed, it'll be serviceable despite that. Right, so
And they were made by Dunlop, were
Dunlop,
they?
yeah. Dunlop Wheel and Rim Co. It used to be called.
And that's at Fort Dunlop? Was
No, it was in Coventry.
How was it?
Yeah, they're still going, but they won't. They're still going, but they don't want to know about their past. I mean, we approach those to have some diaphragms made, because sometimes when the units are beyond redemption, I've opened them and replaced the diaphragm. They didn't want to know. We had to have them remade in China.
I've ordered some from Screwfix to keep in the van. Right, just move it towards me, to the front, front, a bit more, and more, and more.
More?
Oh no, too much, go back a bit.
Full revolution in a
Go
minute.
forward a bit more,
Eh?
just towards me a little bit more, just a bit more, that's it. Right, now,
Hold it up. Yeah.
started.
I'm not sure yet. I've got a nice brake pipe in the way. Looking hopeful. Yeah, let's try that in. Was it anything like, Dawn?
Yeah.
Yeah, push it. No, get the mallet.
Can you just pass me the mallet?
Yeah,
The
I'm up there. End. Put my finger in and just feel. I can feel the end of that bolt now, so it can't be far off.
No, it's nearly there now.
It's actually not quite in line now. It does need to sort of.
Okay.
It might be better just to try that.
Yeah,
there we go. So then I'll pinch it up so it's almost tight, and then half and half it and nip it up, lift the pipe up, put the pump over, and away we go. Drive into the sunset. Just roughly, something like half and half, sort of the gap. There we go, tighten up the bolts. That's that, and then when you take that off, should be a preload there, like that.
Yeah.
Everything's loose, the unit only rests against the top of the car. Once the pressure's on, it's all locked into place there. Try to get the balance right between tight and not leaking, but not over tight. This one where I've recharged the unit, that must never be touched.
Right.
No attempt to pump the suspension up with this valve should be made. It'll just let the gas out of the unit. This is the valve, the original one that was stated in the workshop manual.
Yeah.
This is the one for the fluid. It pumps the entire side of the car up. It's linked to the rear unit as well. It's a case of screwing it all the way onto the valve. There's a valve on the car and makes that a continuous line.
Yeah.
And then what you do then, you set the pump up for vacuum. So on this pump it's handle up and it's A, B and C open and D and E closed. That's the vacuum set up. So then what you do then, you slowly pump the lever and you can see the vacuum developing bit by bit as it sucks the air out. Going and going until it's got a big system and every bit by bit.
That's the bottom dial we're watching, yeah?
Yeah. Sorry about this way around the scope. Doesn't go all the way, but it goes nearly all of the way. If you look under the arch, you'll see that it sucked the piston of the displacer right up into the unit. Because normally that piston's bearing down on there, so it sucked the piston right up to there.
Right.
Because the vacuum's pulling it up. That's why you've got to be careful when you do pump the fluid in, that's not pulled itself off. Because then you've got the displacer's not got anything to pressurise against, and you're like giving a free displacer the full pressure, which you can't do. When I test them, I put them in a rig what stops the displacer going anywhere, and then I pour 600 psi of fluid in, so they've been like over tested before they go on the car. It's like when they test a crane, they lift a weight higher than the specified like working load, didn't they? I think it's they go 25% more, don't they? And yeah. That's what I do with this. I over pressurise them, and that way, if they survive that, then they're unlikely to fail when they're on the car. That has to be done in a rig. You can't just do it freehand. The unit would just burst. That's as good as it gets with the vacuum. That's done its job. So then you put the handle down, and then you get your close A, and B and C stay open. You close, D stays closed, and you open E slowly, and you see the vacuum collapse. What that is doing is sucking in fluid of its own accord due to the vacuum what's been created. It's just sucking the fluid in without any pumping action and filling. And you have to leave that for a minute or so just while it stabilises, and then you pump it up, and then see the piston coming down again, and you've got to make sure it comes down onto there and it's not slipped out or anything. As she pumps, you'll see that piston coming down. Bit by bit. The displacer obviously going up into its housing. And once that's fully, it can't really go anywhere now, so that's it.
That's on 40.
And that's off the ground.
400.
400, and that's off the ground. That is actually off the ground.
Right.
So before it was, well, the gauge on this starts at 100, and it was just hovering around there. There's hardly anything there.
Right, where's this? Where's that wheel nut gone? Oh, there.
Okay, but if they tried jacking that car up and taking all four wheels off the ground, then the pressure wouldn't be what it was, you know.
Yeah.
Right then, so he's going to drop me down a bit, Dawn.
Yeah.
10 mil. You only measure it at the front,
Are you
the height,
ready?
yeah. Are we on this side, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, go on.
Are we?
Yeah,
Yes,
it's on
we are,
this
aren't
one,
we?
yeah.
We are,
Of course
aren't
it is. Go on then. Stop a bit. See how more supple that is now.
Yeah.
we? Squeaky.
That's just the buses I was telling him. It's
Yeah.
as it's, that's normal. You can't get. You don't hear that when you're driving, though. 370. See how when I bounced it, it sort of went down a bit more. Right then, so.
Right, so there's the difference after it's been done. You can see there. set between, it's between about 360 and 370. He says he likes them to sit at 360. But apparently the height isn't really the killer thing. It's the actual travel that they like. But all went well. Everything came off easily, as you probably see. I'm very happy with that. I just can't wait to get to drive it now.
Hopefully this video wasn't overly long. I expect it's going to be fairly long because it was quite a lengthy process filming some of the parts, and also I was quite interested in learning about it, so I did ask a lot of questions. It's quite fascinating how it works, really. Hopefully I've filmed enough stuff that I can have done the video justice. We'll see when I get it all sorted. I'm very impressed with the service they give. It is an expensive job. I mean, that's cost 580 quid, but there's no other way of repairing the suspension on the car, basically. From Ian's knowledge, as soon as he saw them, he saw that there was no gas in it, and the machine itself proved that there was virtually nothing in it, so the suspension was useless. So it's just a fee that's got to be paid, unfortunately. So the price of that was virtually the purchase price of the car. But it certainly looks a lot better now. He seems to know his Allegros as well, and he says although the body panels are shoddy here and there, which we know, the car itself, floor wise, chassis wise, etc., is really good. So it's worth investing in. He says he's seen a lot more shiny cars. They're a lot worse underneath. So that was nice to hear. So hopefully it was money well spent, and I enjoyed the ride as much as he says I will when I eventually get to drive it. So that'll do for now. I'll try and piece this video together, and I'll catch you later.